Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. It's episode 490. We got a real friend of the show. He was a regular guest panelist on my roundtable show. We got Chris Badgett, the joint founder of LifterLMS, joining us. So, Chris, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure thing. I'm Chris Badgett, the CEO and co-founder of a WordPress plugin called LifterLMS. It's a free plugin, and then we have various paid add-ons that bring additional functionality. And essentially what LifterLMS does is it helps people building courses or training-based membership sites create, launch, and scale high-value online training programs.
That's great. And I've got my great co-host, Adrian, with me. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. I am the CEO and founder of Groundhog, another WordPress plugin company. We build and sell marketing automation plugins that help small businesses simplify their marketing and launch their marketing strategies.
Right. So before we go into the main part of the interview, I'd like to talk about our sponsors. First of all, Kinsta. Kinsta Hosting. We've been with Kinsta Hosting for over 3 years. They've been one of my major sponsors for that period. And I've just been delighted with their hosting. Basically, they use Google Cloud to host all their websites on, which is one of the best platforms on the market at the present moment. But what you also get is a fantastic interface with all the bells and whistles, not only for yourself, but if you are hosting websites for clients or supervising them for clients. Plus, you get some of the best 24/7 support on the market at the present moment, in my opinion. So it's a great combination, big enough to have all the technology, but still small enough to care. That's what I say about Kinsta. So if that sounds interesting, go over to Kinsta, have a look at their packages, not only for yourself, but for your clients. And the most important thing is tell them that you heard about them on the WP-Tonic show. Our second sponsor is LaunchFlows. LaunchFlows allows you to customize your WooCommerce checkout experience with Elementor. It liberates the function and design layout of your individual checkout components into powerful selling tools so you can turn your vision into reality with no coding required. Basically, it just enables you with Elementor and WooCommerce to build modern funnels, not only for yourself, but for your clients. It's a powerful tool. You'll be amazed what you can do with it and the kind of functionality that you can build for your clients. And this is the type of stuff that your clients is really looking for in 2020. They're offering also a 25% discount if you go to the LaunchFlows website and you use the coupon code WP-Tonic-ROCKS. I repeat that, WP-Tonic-ROCKS. So on with the interview. Well, it's been interesting times, Chris. To say that you got the right product at the right moment, it would be a slight understatement. But also you recently, I thought, as part of your add-on quiver, I thought a sizable element to that you just recently released. And that was the ability to have groups and have them as administrated by sub-administrators. And I know it was a big undertaking. How has that gone, and what's been the response to the group add-on?
Well, it's going great. LifterLMS is over 5.5 years old. And since the very beginning, our customers have been asking for group functionality, the ability to sell bulk seats in a training program to another company, a family, some kind of social group of some kind. And we take like I don't know if I would call it a first principles approach, but a really slow ground up approach. Like, let's perfect the course. Then as we move out, then now that we've got this foundation of a one-on-one learning system in place, let's add group functionality so that we scale something that's working well, instead of just adding it right at the very beginning when the product was newer. The rollout has been exceptional. It's a big feature because we had to break it into phases. So phase 1 is all about the group experience. That's what's out now. That's what's being innovated on right now. That's what's being, new releases are coming out as we're evolving the group experience. Next up is the automated e-commerce component of group checkout, where there's a group buyer that buys through our product, like the LifterLMS Stripe add-on, PayPal add-on, for a group, and it's completely automated. You can still like get going with it right now. There's still workarounds you can do to like do the automated group selling. But our focus is to optimize that part next. But the initial groups rollout, the feedback has been great. We're big into listening to the customer. So we always listen, but people who are using the early version of groups, what do you like? What do you not like? Where's the friction? What do you need it to do? How are your users when people are getting invited into these groups? Are they getting onboarded okay? How's all that going? This is the most important feedback we're receiving right now. And we're just optimizing around that. But essentially, the big opportunity of groups, there's so many different types of groups. There's like military units, governments, institutions, families, couples, employees at a company, some membership, like people that are in some kind of membership thing. So there's lots of different types of groups, but the way I like to present the opportunity of it is, if you're trying to go for the fastest path to cash, then just as an example, I'm just doing what we call SaaS math here. But if I had a $100 forklift safety training course and I sell that into a company that has 1,000 employees, that's $100,000 in one sale. If you're selling a $100 course to 1,000 people individually, it's, there's more, that's going to take longer and harder and all that. Not that that's bad. And not everybody has a course or membership opportunity that is set up to be a B2B or to group of any kind sale. But that's what's cool about it. And that's why people are so excited and have been so interested in it a long time, because we do have a lot of people that do sell into companies and they wanted the ability to have their cake and eat it too. What I mean by that is sell one-off, but then also sell in bulk. And when that group buyer sets up the group, it's all on the front end of the website. There's no WP admin. They're not in the back. All the analytics, all the group administration, all the inviting team members in, everything, it's all front end. We're super excited about that.
That's great. Over to Adrian.
I'd love to hear if you have any sort of success stories yet, or just people who've come to you and shared their experiences that have so far been able to use this successfully. Has that happened yet?
I see. So funny enough, like timing wise, selling group training into a company right now is
the ideal. It's ideal, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not. What I'm saying is it's not actually, because a lot of companies are cutting marketing spend, like anything that's non-essential. Like if training is an essential thing, then yes. If it's more of an optimization thing that costs money, cut. So yeah, it's still a little early. We see people using it. I've been doing some customer interviews and all that, and it's cool, but I think it's too early if I don't have like this shining example with some famous company that everybody knows to share with you today.
It's actually what it's just a personal anecdote from recently is a large game development company in Canada came to not me personally, but my parents' digital marketing agency, looking for to set up some sort of like mass training facility, because they all of a sudden had 900 employees that they had to send home, and none of them had workstations at home. So like, well, if we're going to employ all of these people, we need to give them something to do. So there's definitely an opportunity there's definitely organizations out there that need this kind of training opportunity, or this kind of product to just satisfy the need to keep their employees busy. Because the worst thing is like having an employee and paying them to do absolutely nothing if you're not going to let them go, right? So that there is certainly an opportunity right now. Businesses are looking for, at least larger businesses are looking for ways to keep their workforce entertained.
Totally.
Yeah. Jonathan?
Yes, and also, obviously the present situation, hopefully it will improve in the coming months. But on the other hand, I think because of the situation, I think something has drastically changed, and more people are going to be working from home after this emergency, and also getting training at home than ever before. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, the way I like to think about this strategically is I divide it into three parts. There's the before, the during, and the after. We're in the during of the, challenging times, the pandemic, and then there's going to be after. But is after going to go right back to exactly the way it was before, or is the world going to be a little bit different, specifically in how they approach, in this conversation, online education and remote learning? I believe that the world has forever changed. It doesn't mean that WordPress and an LMS system built on top of WordPress is the solution to solve every single education problem in the world. But we are going to see more and more of it. And we are going to see more and more of what I call, and I'm working on a piece about this, the new open source education operating system of the future. And what's inside that?
What's the acronym for that?
I don't know. But what's inside of that, what we're seeing the vestiges of three big industries, the last that we've held on to in America as an example: government, healthcare, and education, all in extreme pressure right now. And there's going to be, and there already is, a need for efficiency in all these sectors, and some cost controls, because there's only so much we can stimulate the economy. And what's going to happen is, in the education sector, when I see things like in the news of like Stanford University, 20% pay cuts to college professors, we see basically what, and I'll have more info about this later in this piece I'm working on, but it's going to start at the edges. It already is. And it's going to keep working its way in, this new operating system for education. I'll give you a specific example too. If we look at gym owners right now, personal trainers, fitness professionals, these people have been disrupted. And a lot of people, we have a blog post coming out this week about this, about how to do what you do, but do it from home with three things: Zoom, a Vimeo Pro account, and a WordPress LMS website powered by LifterLMS, and some other tools and stuff to make the website slick and awesome. But that's the basic stack. And when those gym owners can go back to work, but if the ones that have figured out how to train people doing workouts from home or consultations or whatever, private or group format, and they see and experience the efficiency of delivery and the the lack of overhead, I think a lot of them are going to keep doing it. Some may just go back to exactly how it was before, but the world's forever changed when it comes to our approach to education. And especially just if you look at the economics of what's going on with the need for government, healthcare, and education to really get a lot more efficient. I mean, it's a perfect storm in the education industry when you look at things like the highest ever cost of higher education, student loan debt, the need for people to get to money quickly, like to earn revenue in the new economy. All these things are kind of driving towards a need for more efficiency. I'm a huge fan of traditional education and liberal arts education, and I love it. But there's just a lot of pressure right now, especially on the young adult, to the need is there. The world needs some new options. And it doesn't mean the old one goes away, but there's some new ways to approach this problem. I have a lot of thoughts and ideas around this. This is where my, kind of product visionary brain guy kicks in. But the new open source education operating system of the future I am so excited I can jump out of my skin with what I'm seeing as these variables come into play, and how we can work together in the world as technologists, as educators, as community leaders, to provide more options to people in need all over the world at all socioeconomic class.
At what point? So you mentioned that, for example, Stanford is cutting salaries to their staffers by 20%, which would, I guess, be indicative of, a significant decrease in enrollment as the only really kind of thing that I can attribute to that. So at what point does the enrollment become so bad for these kind of like legacy institutions where large organizations are dependent on for their resource pool, their hiring pool? So at what point do you think are large corporations going to have to say, well, the applicant pool is no longer large enough, or the legacy education employment pool is no longer large enough that we're actually going to have to start investing in our own education platform to train our own employment pool? Do you see that as a future possibility?
Yes. And I also see more consolidation. Like if we look at the, and if I specifically steer this conversation towards public higher ed, so governments, this is where government and education overlap, like a state university system, public education funded by tax dollars. When we look at the resources there, that it's gonna put pressure to like, all right, we got to figure out how to do more with less. That's really what it's all about. If you look at the individual, we're all experiencing this right now in the that efficiency we were talking about earlier, like what's essential and what's a nice to have, because nice to have, there's not a lot of room for that right now. So as resources become limited, I mean, in the past, I have to get the exact statistics, so don't quote me on this one, but something like in the past month, we've spent something like 5 years of like tax dollars or something, that like this cannot go on forever. And it's basically like an economic reset. It's like a quantum leap is happening right now in those three sectors, especially in North America, in terms of government, healthcare, and education. Any kind of inefficiency is like, maybe you can look it up because I can never remember the quote. I need to memorize it. But what's that thing about pain and change and staying the same? We'll come back to it. It's like when the pain of staying the same is greater than change. That's where we're at right now in education.
Right.
All right. That's great. I'm going to go for our break. I've got a question afterwards, and I think Chris has got some new add-on to give us a little hint what's coming up. A little peek. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had a friend of the show. We've had already a great discussion. Chris from LifterLMS. Now, Chris, we've had learning management systems, we've had quizzes, gamification, but two things that I think are going to kind of dominate, in my opinion, in the next 18 months or 2 years is small group live interactivity, which we're doing now using the Zoom platform. Now, Zoom, compared to Google Hangout and some of the other players, has dominated this sector. But I think because of what's happened recently, a lot of money is going to be invested in similar products to Zoom and moving the kind of tools and the way you can interact in small groups. The other thing is 5G coming up in the next 18 months, and not doubling, but by a factor of 10 the bandwidth that is accessible to large groups of people in North America. Do you think I'm right? Those two factors are really going to be some of the driving factors behind new functionality in learning management systems?
I do, and I would add one more that's societal, which is that this is where we're the before, during, and after. The after is not going to go back to the before. And what I mean by that is because we're in this during period, we talk about it in terms of words like adoption or words like power user, or total addressable market. It has a lot of flavors and names. But when you have essentially the world on Zoom and most everybody had to figure this out, like with exponential adoption. And when you look at the life cycle of a product like virtual learning has been around for a very, very long time. So I think the factor of time is what we need to look at here, not just the innovation itself. And if we are in a time, and I'm overgeneralizing here, where everybody now has some baseline understanding of like Zoom, of remote learning, of remote working, of getting comfortable with video cameras online and stuff, like us internet techie WordPress people are very comfortable with this for the most part because we've been, building online businesses, doing remote agency work for a long time. But there's a saying, which is that here comes everybody. And you know what? They're here now. So as this mass adoption of all this technology happens, the world's not going to go, right back when everybody's a user.
Is he frozen? I think.
No, I'm here.
Oh, right, so that was pretty broad. But first of all, do you think Zoom? I was listening to another podcast where yesterday, it was outside the WordPress, but they were describing a teacher that in a state, local area, they had put all the classes on Google Hangout, and they were saying that a lot of the staff are finding it extremely difficult to use Google Hangout. And I understand it because I've been there and I gave up on it and I went to Zoom.
Yeah.
So I still think there's an enormous amount, even, the Zoom platform's pretty good, but there's nothing like competition, effective competition to accelerate the improvement process a bit. And I see that happening quite rapidly because I think a lot of money is going to be aimed at this sector. But also, how do you see 5G really affecting this? Because when you got that amount of new bandwidth available, the possibilities, I know you got a new product, a new add-on, and it's in the, maybe you can tell us, because I think it's probably linked to improve bandwidth and that bandwidth being available everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's three things in that, which I'm going to answer for you.
Well, that's just typical of one of my questions, isn't it?
Yeah. The first thing is I found that quote while you were speaking, and this is the world we're in. This is an old quote we've all heard, but it's never been more relevant, which is change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So this is where we're at, and this is why there's so much movement and activity happening. In terms of 5G and bandwidth, on the LifterLMS website, if you go to the examples link or the case studies link, there's one of our example sites is a great company called Cause Labs that does WordPress sites for nonprofits. Cheryl and Mike Gillihan over there. They use LifterLMS for a client in Africa that helps train women on trade skills that are gives them more mobility in society, more options, income potential, and is a great thing. They had to make all the course content, at least in the first version, text-based because of the internet connectivity. And I think it's really easy for us to see, like, if we have like great high-speed internet, a lot of the world is not like that way, even in the United States and Canada. There's lots of people that have very slow internet.
We have a lot of dead zones here. It's a big country and a small population.
Yeah. And but that access thing, make no mistake about it, like I remember I was having a conversation with Jason Cohen from WP Engine, and he said once that always had a big impact on me is that the internet is a really big place, and it's really hard for the human mind or to really understand how big it is. And I think we're about to experience, this is another one of those perfect storm variables of 5G that's going to compound on the opportunity of online education.
Well, I'll bring it up because what I didn't realise, you think, oh, it's going to double. It's not. It's not even going to triple. You're talking about 10 by the power. It's going to speed everything up to such a dramatic level that you just can't comprehend it, really.
Yeah, and there's something that I learned that helped me with this kind of thinking, which is there's linear growth, there's exponential growth, and then there's spherical growth. And those are totally different. It's hard enough for us to really wrap our heads around exponential as we've been looking at things like flattening the curve and all this stuff. Like exponential growth is not an easy thing for the mind to wrap the head around. It's also spherical growth is really misunderstood, like the kind of growth potential. And I'm not sure if 5G is looking at exponential or spherical, but I agree with you, Jonathan, that it's way more than linear. And to answer your third part of your question about the about learning and these meetings and Zoom and Google Hangouts and all these things, we innovate with our customers and users at LifterLMS. So our customers are the heartbeat of our organization. We put them at the center of our business, not our product. And we look at what they need to be successful, what they think they need, what they're asking for, what they really need, all that stuff. We see what the pain point is. They may not know what they need. But if you look at something like Masterclass, which if you haven't heard of it, it's like $15 a month, and you get these video courses that are created by celebrities like Steve Martin on comedy, and there's just famous people, Sarah Blakely from Spanx about entrepreneurship and so on, $15 a month. And the reason it's so cheap is because, and they're good, they're super good. And how cool is it to learn from the best in the world? But the value is not just in the best training and the best content and the most professionally produced videos. The best training gets people the best results. The best results often require more fidelity or interaction or custom feedback or support. So when we design a course or membership, we need to look beyond the content. It's important, don't get me wrong, but what's the support? What's the social component? What's the social learning? What's the coaching or the mentoring or the feedback system? How's that going to work? And what we're looking at, which is coming in an add-on for LifterLMS, is a classrooms option, which can be either virtual or in person. Virtual meaning we've got web technology we can integrate with, or to facilitate like the live stuff, like the live meeting or webinar or hangout or whatever you want to call it. And then we're also looking at the physical location, which is more time, place, that kind of thing. Because learning, the best training courses, and this is a framework that I got from a great entrepreneur. His name's Dane Maxwell. I just interviewed him on my podcast, LMS Cast. He wrote a book called Start from Zero. The whole thesis of this book for any business, but in this case, we're talking about education, is it's all about a clear customer, a clear result, and a mechanism. If the result is learning that works, we need content, but we also need, in a lot of cases, not every case, masterclass is fine, passive self-study video courses is fine, but oftentimes there may be like a mastermind retreat or event somewhere. There may be just like flip classroom stuff going on where we have like regular in-school stuff or mixed with online stuff. That's required to facilitate the result. So if we look at the new open source education operating system of the future, and we look at a need for efficiency, we need if we want to, the rich will always be able to attend and pay for whatever despite the exorbitant costs. But the pressure is mostly on the middle and the bottom, and these are growing. Like these parts of the population around the world is expanding, especially if we're heading into a recession time. And education and the opportunity for education, kind of like Cheryl from Cause Labs example using LifterLMS, education creates upward mobility in society, which is a beautiful thing. And it needs to keep happening. And so to put a cap on the add-on, it's working on that problem so that we can have fidelity, we can have high touch, you can deliver great support, you can incorporate live and not just do a passive video-based version of a textbook.
Yeah, and just to wrap it up, just my own comment. There's the kind of the gold standard is like 1-to-1, but actually that can fail quite considerably. That 1-to-1, actually group learning where you have a group with a tutor or whatever title that individual, can be even more effective in some ways than a 1-to-1, I feel. We've got to wrap it up. Hopefully Chris can stay on for a little while and we've got some bonus content. So Chris, how can people find out more about you, your thoughts, and also about your company?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can check LifterLMS out at lifterlms.com. And we believe in one of our mission is to democratize education in the digital classroom, and we believe strongly in the kind of the WordPress way of doing things, of giving away as much value as we can for free. So go check out the free LifterLMS plugin where the WordPress plugins are. If you can't find it, just go to our site and or just do a Google search for LifterLMS free. And I have a podcast for people who are education entrepreneurs that want to create, launch, and scale high-value online training programs for themselves or for their clients. That's called LMS Cast. So go check out that. And I want to thank you, Jonathan and Adrian, for this great interview. One of the reasons I keep going to the Friday show that you do, the roundtable, as we discuss the WordPress news in groups, is because I learned something. We learn more together. And that's, I think, a great example of, how learning is not necessarily a solo act.
That's great. Thanks for saying that, Chris. It's much appreciated. Adrian, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to with Groundhog?
So you can go to groundhog.io to find out. And like Chris, we believe in giving away a huge amount of value for free. So we have a free version of our platform. So if you're currently looking to, everybody's looking to pare down on their expenditures right now. And we offer a significant amount of value for very, very, very little cost. So if you're currently spending an exorbitant amount of money on your email marketing platform, you can downsize your cost without losing a whole lot in terms of both functionality and usability, and you get to consolidate and simplify your marketing at the same time. So it's really a win-win, and you can learn about how to do that at groundhogwith2gs.io.
It's a great product. We just used it yesterday for a client building a nice little funnel. It's great to have, actually, Adrian. We'll be back next week with another great guest. We've got some great guests finishing off this month and the beginning of May. I can't believe I'm going to have to rustle up some more guests myself. But it's been a great, we've had some great guests. We'll be back next week with another great interview. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. One thing, because I noticed, I don't know what you call it, I think you got it today, haven't you? Because I think you didn't have it last week. Your 1 o'clock. What's the official title of your 1 o'clock?
Mastermind?
The 1 o'clock is the LifterLMS strategy office hours. Right. So
yeah, and I've attended it quite regularly, haven't I? But I tend just to sit in the background, don't I? And I just listen. And I got this observation. I just wanted to see if you agree or you think I'm on the right track. You get a lot of people asking you a lot of kind of semi-technical questions, but you're a pretty effective marketer. Like all entrepreneurs, they're alchemists, really. They turn lead into gold, don't they? They turn something that has no value into something that has value. So they are kind of alchemists, aren't they? And with Tom, you turn some code and you turn it into product and you turn it into some value, don't you? But they tend to ask you the kind of technical questions, but very few of them ask you what I would be asking you if I had the opportunity, some serious marketing questions about how to market their course. Have you been surprised by that?
Well, I do get those questions a lot. And to be clear, there's two things going on. There's the weekly office hours mastermind that I run with Infinity Bundle customers, which is more of a roundtable mastermind that I facilitate. But the Lifter LMS customer only strategy hour, which is happening today in like 40 minutes from right now or whatever, 1:30 Eastern. That's one I 100% just run with, where I give strategic insight, and I do get a lot of marketing questions in there that are and it's not
so basically I'm wrong. I got the wrong impression.
Well, no. Well, let me just say that so I have both those formats, and the reasons I added that one is I have a philosophy of what companies in my opinion should do during these challenging times, which is to add more value for the same price. So I have a strategy brain. So I'm like, all right, how do I add more value to my paying customers? I'll give them access to that, and they can ask me anything, and I can just add as much value as I can in a scalable group format in an hour. And they're not paying me the $1,000 Infinity Bundle so that they don't have access to that mastermind call that I run all the time. So those are the two things. Because we're a software company, I think it's only natural for people to come with technical questions. Yeah. And so that's one answer. Number two is I'm not your typical sales and marketer, and I say that with love.
Yeah.
And I think one of my superpowers is I'm underestimated. I listen, and I have a high level of empathy with people. And so
you've definitely got more than I have, because you got more patience than I've got.
Yeah. And when I hear somebody ask a question, I'm always like listening for the emotions. I'm feeling emotions, and I'm also listening for, maybe they're not forming that question, what's behind that. Like there's a lot of layers to it. But yeah, I enjoy helping people with sales and marketing stuff, not just like product stuff. And yeah. So
I have a sales and marketing question.
Yeah. And we're still live on the Facebook group. I'm cool with that. I'm just letting you know. Go ahead.
I have a sales and marketing question. So we've been talking, and you've basically been like doing gangbusters since the work from home thing has started, and people are now looking for something to do, looking for something to learn, or trying to bring what they have to teach people to market. And you mentioned that a big part of what you're doing is you're enabling that by promoting your free product, which from discussions earlier, you actually weren't trying to push as hard, because at the end of the day, we're businesses and we have to make money. So I'm curious as to what exactly you're doing in terms of promoting your free product, and what kind of effect that's having on your user base, and what kind of effect it's having on your company.
Yeah. Well, I'm always a fan of free, and I'm always a fan of earning trust in advance for asking for the sale. So, that's why I think free is the best marketing thing you can do. But also to be clear, when the world changed and like we're in like a new reality, you have to revisit everything, like your positioning, your messaging, like something that might have been in your marketing funnel or even in your core value proposition, which we changed on our homepage after the whole COVID-19 thing set off, is because what worked in like the old world, if some of it, not all of it, but some of it becomes tone deaf and not good in the new world. So when we look at the customer strategy office hours, I've been doing a daily Facebook Live in my Facebook group where I'm trying to provide mostly inner game mindset support to my community for free, and our free plugin, this challenge funnel thing we just did for free to show people how to go through a design sprint in 4 days and prototype their course in just 4 days. That I brought in a professional instructional designer to facilitate. That's the more I get, the more I give. That's just how I roll. And I think that's how I do it. I mean, there's so many strategies. I've been in motion for a long time. So I can't just go, there's not just like one quick tactic that I did. It's like fully integrated, change the messaging. So I operate like in a complex world. I like to lead through something I learned called simple rules instead of tactics. So the simple rules I have, like, and they might change like pre or post pandemic, but what I operate by now, and I'll just list off like 3 or 5 or something, is I ask my question: how do I give more value to my customer than anybody else in the world? How can I give as much as I possibly can away for free and still have a viable business? How do I build a community, not just of like prospects and customers, but other plugin authors, WordPress professionals, technologists, other disciplines? Like, how do I engage in a network as opposed to just single entrepreneur? And then, what else is there? I mean, those are some of the big ones right there. So like, yeah. So you can see when I implement these tactics, like, okay, more free, more value for the same price. That's another one, by the way. So like, if there's another add-on coming in the Infinity Bundle, I was just, yeah. So like, why do that? Well, more value, same price. We believe we put our customer, not our product, at the center. Like, what do they need? What do they need? What do they need now that's even more important than it was before? That's kind of how I approach it. And yeah.
So
I think we need to wrap it up actually, because obviously Chris has probably only given this an hour, and I like to have 10 minutes to have a quick chat with him. So we're going to wrap up. Chris, I have to come back in the second half of the year because I thought we've only scratched the surface of some of these topics. Thanks for coming on the show again, Chris. We'll be back. Hopefully you might join us tomorrow for our round table show as well. We'll be back next week with hopefully with another great guest. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.